Look, see, watch. Stare, glimpse, glance, glare, peek, gaze. All right, so there's no doubt that getting to a more advanced level in a language can help you to communicate more confidently when you speak it. Over the last 10 years that I've been teaching English and learning languages myself, there's a lot of things that I've noticed that advanced learners do, or speakers do, that make them successful that unfortunately other learners don't do, and they stay stuck at intermediate. So we're going to be looking at 10 of these insights today. These points include mindset, attitude, and more technical aspects of the language. So if you want to take your English to the next level, then this video is for you. And if you're new here, every single week we make new lessons like this one that help you go from being a lost and insecure English learner to being a confident and successful English speaker. If that sounds like what you want for your English learning, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell on below and join over 300,000 real lifers. Aw yeah. So let's get right into it. Advanced speakers are always pushing the limits. They always challenge themselves by using a new word that they learned or a new expression, even at the risk of maybe using it a bit incorrectly the first time. They might experiment with using different grammar structures or saying a word that they don't know how to pronounce yet. So this is definitely a big difference of advanced speakers. They know and actually use different or similar ways to say the same thing. You won't find an advanced speaker always using the same words over and over again. Look, see, watch. Stare, glimpse, glance, glare, peek, gaze. Laugh, giggle, chuckle, snicker, crack up. Boring, tedious, dull, monotonous, trite. Advanced speakers also know and use multiple idioms, and they certainly don't shy away from using phrasal verbs when they speak. Make the project go faster. Speed up the project. He causes problems. He gets into trouble. To put an idea into practice. Where the rubber meets the road. That's amazing. So when advanced speakers don't understand something, they don't panic or freeze up and really break the conversation. They try to understand, first of all, from the context when they can. If not, they might depend on some survival phrases, like asking, what does that mean? Or could you say it again a bit slower? Or could you spell that out for me? The important thing here is that advanced speakers keep the conversation flowing even when they don't understand. So without a doubt, there are different levels of fluency that one can achieve. A beginner can be fluent in some situations. For example, when they have to introduce themselves, they can do that in a very fluent way. An intermediate learner can also be fluent in certain situations, maybe when they're traveling at the airport, or maybe when they need to order something in a restaurant, they can do that effortlessly. Now, the really cool thing is that the more advanced that you become, the more situations that you will feel comfortable communicating in. Now, the main difference about advanced speakers is that they feel confident in most situations, if not virtually all situations, speaking in English. And another big difference is that advanced speakers communicate smoothly. They don't put strain on their speaking partner, which means that their speaking partner doesn't have to try really hard to understand what they're saying. They have the tools available to be able to figure out a different way to say it. And I think this really is the upper edges of fluency, is when you are able to describe anything that you need to say, even if you don't have the exact word, by saying it in a different way. And I know what you're thinking, you're probably saying in your head, but Ethan, how can I become an advanced speaker if I don't have anyone to speak to? Well, so many learners feel exactly how you do, and that's exactly why we thought we would go ahead and create a solution for you. So we developed the Real Life app where you can, absolutely for free, go and press a button, instantly connect to another English speaker in another part of the world for a fun and dynamic conversation in English. So one of the things that advanced learners definitely know that other learners don't is that the only way to get better at speaking is by actually speaking. So if you are frustrated at still being stuck at an intermediate speaking level, then what are you waiting for? You really have to just practice and practice and practice. No excuses. And with the Real Life app, it's really easy to do that every single day. So you can download it now by clicking up here or down the description box below. Or you can look for Real Life English in the Apple app or Google Play Store. So accuracy is the precision with which you speak. So saying it in other words, it's how many mistakes you make when you speak. So advanced speakers don't make as many mistakes when they speak. The reason for this is because along their English learning life, they've made lots and lots of mistakes. Advanced speakers are really curious, so they're always looking for different ways to try to use the language or do new things, which inevitably is going to lead them to make mistakes. But they don't just make those mistakes over and over and over again. They figure out what mistakes they're making, be it with a teacher or maybe by recording themselves watching and seeing what they can identify, or with a friend who maybe is a bit better than they are in English, and they really work at correcting those. So I'm absolutely not trying to say that you should not make mistakes. Mistakes are fantastic. They are your guides to English fluency, but you do need to identify your weak points. So for example, if there's something that you're often confused about with grammar, then you need to identify those weak points and work at correcting them, work at fixing them so they aren't occurring anymore. You go to work every day. I didn't went to the party. It was a development project. It's a development project. I worked there. I worked there. Very basic mistakes should not happen anymore at an advanced level. At this level, mistakes should happen because you're pushing your limits by trying new vocabulary or structures, or maybe because of tiredness, and these will be called slips. I can't stress this enough. Learners who get to the advanced level do not make excuses. So you won't hear them saying, oh, I can't study because I don't have time, or I just can't become an advanced English learner because I don't have the natural learning skills, or I'm not a good language learner. Advanced speakers got to where they are because they absolutely made English a priority. They looked at their time and they figured out how they can fit English in. And some of that might be through deliberate practice, by actually having to study, for example, the grammar structures that they're still not comfortable with. But also some of it's going to be fun and convenient. They're probably, by the time they get to an advanced level, consuming a lot of content in English. Even if they're not living in an English-speaking country, they're creating their own immersion experience. And advanced speakers don't have any superpower that got them to where they are. They persist. When things get really difficult, they get to those plateaus just like everyone else did, but they don't give up. They keep pushing through it, and that's how they got to where they are today. Now let's be honest, most of us in our everyday lives aren't using much sophisticated language when we communicate. However, all of us know that there are situations that call for it. Maybe you have a job interview, or you have to give a presentation, or with your English you might even have to take a proficiency exam that's going to require you to act out some situations where you'd have to use that type of language. So advanced learners, even though they're not using it very much, are comfortable with that type of language when they're in a situation where it's necessary. You did really well to get such a high grade. I would like to congratulate you on obtaining such a high grade. You said you'd be interested in trying to get a job here with us. You expressed an interest in applying for a position at Real Life English. Believe me, we'd love to hire you. I assure you that we would be delighted to offer you the position. So there's a quote I absolutely love from Picasso that says, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. Now, if you're at the beginner or intermediate level, you still haven't learned the rules like a pro, so you should not be trying to break them. But advanced learners are to this point. They can use the language flexibly. They can sometimes make a grammar mistake on purpose because they want to create humor, or maybe because they're in a really casual situation where we would use that kind of language. They can also identify when a native is speaking if they're using grammatically correct English or not. And finally, whether they're watching their favorite TV series or maybe they're hanging out with some friends, they can usually understand the humor, be that sarcasm or different types of jokes. So advanced English speakers don't blame the other person when they make mistakes. They realize that they need to be proactive and take responsibility for that other person not understanding them. Even though, a conversation goes two ways and both people should make an effort, but a lot of times we just don't have that luxury when we're speaking a foreign language. So an advanced speaker is going to see this as an opportunity to figure out, what am I missing from my speaking? Did I make a pronunciation error? Am I using a word incorrectly? Or maybe I'm using an expression in a way that doesn't fit the context. It could even be a cultural misunderstanding, something that you're bringing from your own background that doesn't really make sense in the place where you're currently at or with the person that you're currently talking to. So the main point here is that advanced speakers of English have a really high self-awareness, and they won't let making a mistake again wreck their confidence. They can self-correct if necessary. So finally, I've already mentioned this earlier, but advanced speakers aren't going to make the excuse that, well, I can't get fluent English because I don't live in an English-speaking country. Of course not. Nowadays, it is just so easy to create your own English immersion experience. And this is especially easy in English because there's more media published in English than any other language. So they probably will have their technology set to the English language just to see little things all the time when they're using their phone or their computer. Beyond this, they're probably going to be filling a lot of their time with different types of English media, which might be watching TV series, movies, consuming podcasts, listening to music, and they're doing a lot of this in English all the time, filling all those little convenient moments. So even if they don't live in the United States or the UK, they are spending a huge amount of their day surrounded by the English language. And again, they're probably pushing out of their comfort zone by consuming harder and harder books, like, books that natives would actually be reading, or reading the newspaper instead of reading it in their native language, consuming a paper from the United States or from the UK. And they won't just be consuming leisurely media either, like TV series and movies. They're going to, again, try harder things like watching a TED Talk, or maybe even taking a course in English instead of taking it in their native language. They see this as a way to kill two birds with one stone. That means that they're getting double the benefit out of one activity because they're taking the course in English. Not only are they learning about whatever they want to learn in that course, but they're also improving their English. And another important difference would be that they're not just going to watch these things passively, because you do get to a point where you can understand everything through the context. But the advanced speaker, when they notice a new expression or they notice some interesting use of grammar, they're going to take note of that so they can study it later. So trust me, it is not at all necessary that you spend a ton of money to move abroad to become an advanced speaker. On our team, we have some incredible native-like English speakers who have never even traveled outside of their native country. So you can do it too. The tools are available. Highly recommend that you subscribe to our channel because we create content like this to help you to get there. And I'd love to hear from you. What do you need more help with? Which of these points do you find the most interesting and you would like us to make an individual video on it? You can let me know by commenting down below, and maybe we'll just make that video that you need. And now you're probably feeling pretty motivated to sound more advanced, right? Well, how about starting out by really increasing your advanced vocabulary? You can do that with this lesson. Let's check out a clip.
Advanced word formation. I love my grandma. She's very wise. Intermediate.
What? No. No.
Advanced word formation. I love my grandma. She's very wise. Intermediate.